Says we're live. Hopefully we are, right? So welcome to the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal Self-Care Challenge. My name is Robin Nutt, and I'm your host of the channel and the founder of the energyhealingschool.com. So today I'm going to walk you through my journaling process and share some real-life examples along the way. If you don't have it yet, grab your journal. I have mine, and come journal with me. Speaking of, don't forget, in the description there is a link that if you want to hop on the Zoom and literally journal with me, you are invited to do so. I think we could have a little bit of fun, right? So when I journal, just get in a space of being open, right? Listening within, listening to whatever comes up, not justifying it, not trying to define it or describe it right away, just being open and seeing what comes up, because we focus on a journal prompt, right? So anything outside of the journal prompt, we hold space for it, but we re-ask the journal prompt to get our attention and our focus back in that space. So I write out the word self-care challenge because for us, self-care is an acronym. I underline the letter of the day and then I write it out actually. So today is letter F for forgiveness. In my healing system of Best You, it's the letter T, which stands for transformation. Forgiveness in itself is extremely transformational. And then, of course, this is governed by the Heart Chakra Energy. So then we touch on the Heart Chakra Energy as well. So our journal prompt today, and I do write the journal prompt down. I ask myself whatever the prompt is. And again, wait and listen, just like you were asking somebody else. You ask a question, you wait and allow them to respond, right? Do the same for you. So today is, how do overachievers forgive themselves? So what came up for me was even, are you aware of the energy or action that actually needs forgiveness? Excuse me, or another word for forgiveness really is release, right? We're releasing baggage. I know there's some beliefs about what forgiveness means, which can cause some more resistance within us because there are some things that we find unforgivable, right? Like there's this reason why we have to hold on to these grudges and resentments. So when you're in the energy of being quote unquote an overachiever, are you aware of what needs forgiven? So what I noted then was what would need to be forgiven for self, right? Because when you're in the mode of being an overachiever, and if you have not met your goals, or if you don't feel like you're successful, which can trigger some of those feelings of unworthiness, then what you're you might think then what you need to forgive yourself for is not being good enough, right? That's what came up for me, thinking, oh, there was that time where that was my focus, beating self up, right? Blame, shame, and guilt, unworthy, you can do better, blah, 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 inner critic, judge, all the things. So then there was this assumption that I had to, or maybe should, in answering this question, my first thought would be that I have to forgive myself for being a screw up, right? For the mistakes that I made, for not being good enough, for not doing a good enough job, whatever it is. When really then what comes up now is forgiving self for overworking yourself, right? For having those unrealistic expectations, for beating yourself up for mistakes or for perceived failures. Remember, sometimes as an overachiever, you might actually be very successful and just not see it because of unrealistic expectations, beating yourself up, just always thinking it's not good enough, right? So forgiving yourself for that, for beating yourself up, for the blame, shame, and guilt. Again, the unworthiness, the critic, the judge. So we can always delve into on what led to the patterns of an overachiever. What is left over, too, that might need forgiveness or release. So I also incorporated whether it has to do with self or situations with others, right? Because if we continue to avoid those and don't release those too, then it's more likely that we would continue these patterns of being an overachiever, continuing the patterns of unrealistic expectations, for beating ourselves up, for not allowing the process, right? Making mistakes and learning from them. And I'm just I've changed words to like experimenting, right? Instead of saying this very specifically, this is my goal, this is a step, and this is what I expect, and this is what needs to be done, and this is what it's supposed to look like, and focusing on the outcomes, and when it's not that outcome, and then you're a failure and you made a mistake, blah, blah, blah. Instead of that, now I change that mindset and change the word and look at it as an experiment. You know what, this is kind of new for me. Or the situation, there's some differences in it. So I'm going to experiment with it and see how it goes. And then you still set your goals and you're still working towards, you have a desired outcome. However, it's like allowing yourself to explore, and there's less limitation set in there in the process. So before, when I was very rigid about this is what I need to do, this is my goal, and this is how I have to do it, and this is how I have to look, and blah, blah, blah. That's very rigid. That's limiting. This is how I have to do it, right? There's no wiggle room. So each step, each movement has to be perfect. When we expand that and allow that wiggle room, maybe what I don't know today and I learn a week from now, I can then incorporate in the process, right? As I experiment and move through, as I'm trying to reach these goals and playing around with it and allowing the process, allowing the journey, right? And not so hyper focused on the step by step by step by step by step, the how-to part. Do it perfect. I went off on a tangent, so let me try to find where I left off and pull it back. I don't know what led me off there, but when we think of whatever happened in life that led to the overachiever and what is left and needs forgiveness or release, those experiences that we had of others projecting their own self-doubts, their own maybe overachiever moments, their own criticisms, their own narcissism, or neglect or abuse that we might have experienced, remembering that forgiveness is about releasing the baggage, and it's not about saying that it's okay, they're off the hook now, right? No, they got to deal with their own karma, but we don't have to be the ones that control it. That's massive. Again, checking my journal. Don't want to forget anything. So of course, all of that forgiveness, whether it's for you or others, releasing that baggage, healing through all of that, allowing yourself to feel it, allowing yourself to expand, have the wiggle room to explore. The journey is all transformational, right? It allows us to break those patterns, which we're trying to do. And again, releasing that energy, which allows us to feel more at ease. So there's less stress, less anxiety, less depression, better boundaries, and less burnout. So all of those one leads to another, and it builds and expands. So just as we can get on a hamster wheel and one thing could trickle down and lead us down into like a, what I'm looking for, quicksand. Like the good things can build too and improve, right? Can help clear away that energy, can help balance that energy, and can help improve us, our overall well-being. Found an article I just want to touch on for a moment. It's from buckscountyanxietycenter.com, how forgiveness can help high achievers protect their success. So obviously I won't read the whole thing, but a few things I want to touch on I could really resonate with. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read some of the article. I think we have time. High achievers are used to controlling their world. Oh, I could feel that. They pride themselves on outworking and outdoing everyone. However, some high achievers are motivated by anger that destroys their health. Here's a process for working towards forgiveness. without sacrificing success. So again, I'm not going to read it all, but it says anger is a strong motivator. It sure is. I'm quoting, I've had several I'll show them chips on my shoulder that motivated me for decades. Excuse me. I use this anger to push harder than anyone around me. For years, I wore it as a badge of honor. Interesting motivator for a therapist, right? Oh, that's funny. I missed that statement. I'm going to come back to this. Then my health crashed into a wall, and I had to rethink my I'll take them down plans. As part of my revised plan, I had to let go of some of the anger that had been fueling my academic and professional life and upsetting people around me for years. I learned this letting go process is often part of forgiveness, quote unquote. So let me just touch on a couple of things. As I was reading this, I could really relate because one, I'll show them. My thought was, watch me. I had the watch me attitude. Somebody tried to tell me, you can't do that. It's like, watch me. And I did everything in my power to do it just to prove the point, just to show them I could. As a matter of fact, yes, I can. The really dumb thing about that, and yes, I'm going to call it out as dumb now because this is my own opinion, not to berate, but just, it just is. I had that attitude and I was motivated by that, and I would prove that point even if I didn't want to. So if someone said you can't, and they were talking about something I had no interest in, oh, I would stink and take it and do it anyway just to prove a point. What sense does that make, right? None. Like, none. But I did it. So through the healing journey, through the process, through forgiveness and letting things go and transformation and all the things, thank goodness I'm not there anymore, right? So now somebody could say, well, you can't do that. And if it's something I don't want to do, I'm fine with it. Maybe I could, but I don't want to. It doesn't matter to me. And I don't need to prove it to anybody because I don't even want to, right? Then I found it interesting, just side note, where it says, interesting motivator for a therapist. I too am a former therapist. So I was like, oh, I didn't even read that part the first time. So a little bit more. The article says high achievers are praised for achievement at all cost. Forgiveness is difficult for most high achievers. We're taught from early on that forgiveness is key to being a quote unquote good person. But if our life takes an unexpected turn, we're encouraged to take that anger and channel it into something productive. So, how many top athletes, entertainers, and business people have stories that involve building themselves into a badass to get back at someone? Right? That watch me attitude. So, just touching on a couple more points. I'm not, again, going to read it all, but 3 key ways high achievers struggle with forgiveness in the article. One is, excuse me, one, many high achievers are driven by anger and revenge. Another, high achievers want to keep the rage that fueled their success, right? If it works, you want to continue doing it. Another is high achievers hate feeling a lack of control, which I don't disagree with that. And I'm not going to read any more of the article. So especially in our like awakening process, if you're familiar with your awakening or if you've had an awakening process or you're familiar with that, part of it is that, right? Kind of letting go and realizing that there's so much more that that we are here to experience. And there's a lot of things we don't have that type of control over. And the things we do have control over aren't always what we think they are, or it doesn't, I want to say it doesn't work the way we think it does, but not in the ways that we think it does, right? I'm thinking of manifesting. Like, yes, we manifest and yes, we project, and the energy we put out, we bring in more of. So we have a level of control, like because we have choice, and choice is empowerment, right? So in that sense, we have control, but not in the way that the human ego-ness assumed it to be when we were controlling every aspect, right? This is my objective, this is the step I'm going to take, this is how I'm going to make that success, and this is what the outcome is going to look like, and this is what it has to look in every single moment, and I'm blah, 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 right? You do what I tell you to do, and you do what I tell you to do, and I'm going to do this way, and not like that. That is overwhelming and unrealistic. So forgiveness. Forgiving you for putting yourself through that cycle, those patterns, when we don't have to, right? When it's just beating ourselves up and making it hard on ourselves and making our energy wonky, could be coming out in physical and psychological symptoms, which I'll talk about for the heart. Could be many, many symptoms, but for one example with the heart. So heart chakra energy, when the energy is wonky, maybe you experience asthma, high blood pressure, heart disease, lung disease, low immune system, psychologically jealous, right? Jealousy, because we have those high expectations on ourselves. So if someone else is succeeding, instead of, feeling really happy for them, and we might smile and say we are, but deep down we might have a sense of envy or jealousy, resentment, bitterness, right? Hold those grudges, isolate ourselves. Sometimes it's so overwhelming, you just need to withdraw, right? So there is healthy solitude, but then there's that unhealthy isolation. So unhealthy isolation is what I'm referring to. Grief and loneliness. And so grief when you feel like you've lost yourself, right? When you feel like you lost yourself, sometimes we get so worked up in being perfect or successful that we lose us, feel like we lose that connection within ourselves. It's still there, but we're not focused on it. We're not open to it. We're not receiving it. We're not engaged in it, right? So it feels like we lost ourselves. We just feel disconnected. So with that being said, 5-day BU challenge. Let's work on breaking these patterns, right? I call them patterns of codependency because they do fall in that category by definition. And what's the word I'm looking for? Just the description of it, how it works, how we get here. Doesn't matter, but let's break it, right? Let's break it together. Go to the energyhealingschool.com. You'll find the link to the BU challenge. You'll find the link to the Empathic Healers Masterclass, setting those boundaries, protecting your energy, the 7-day chakra healing challenge, so we can keep the energy clear on all 7 chakras and continue to support the energy in our chakra system, right? There's some other goodies there. Take a look, see what resonates. And I will see you tomorrow for throat chakra healing. We talk more about communication and speaking your truth. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, whatever.